That morning started like any other. I was in the middle of preparing for a Zoom meeting when my laptop suddenly froze. It had been acting strange for days, so I didn't think much of it. I asked Daniel if I could use his for just 30 minutes. He hesitated for a second, only a second, then nodded. "It's on the dining table," he said without looking up from his phone. I grabbed it and sat down to log in. His password was still the same. I smiled a little at that. "Still my birthday," I whispered. Silly things like that used to mean something to me. The meeting began, and I kept my camera off because I wasn't exactly dressed for the occasion. I turned down the volume a little and opened a notepad to start taking notes. That's when it happened. A soft ping from the top corner of the screen. I looked up, thinking it was just a calendar reminder or maybe some pop-up from his work. But no. The subject line read, "Rosewood Suite confirmed." I paused. Rosewood? That sounded familiar. I clicked the notification. I wish I hadn't. The email opened. A reservation confirmation from a luxury hotel not far from our house. 2 nights, a suite, champagne service. The check-in date was just last weekend. When Daniel said he had an overnight strategy meeting, my mouth felt dry. I scrolled further. Attached to the email were photos. Not many, just 3. But they were enough to still my heartbeat. The first one was of the suite itself, gold pillows, a red rose on the bed. The second, Daniel, shirtless, leaning against white pillows, smiling lazily into the camera. I could see his necklace, the one I gave him 2 anniversaries ago. Then came the third photo. My fingers trembled as I clicked on it. A woman was in the bed beside him. Her hair fell over her shoulders in soft brown waves. She was looking away from the camera, sipping wine. Only part of her face showed. But I knew that profile. I knew that silver anklet around her left ankle. I knew the tiny brown birthmark near her shoulder. I knew her. It was Linda, my sister, my divorced elder sister. I don't remember breathing for the next 10 seconds. My eyes burned, but no tears came. I just stared at the screen. I stared until the screensaver kicked in and the image vanished. I sat there, frozen, my thoughts spinning out of control. Was I mistaken? Could it be someone else? Was this some sick joke? I looked again. No mistake. It was her. The same woman who once cried in my arms when her own husband betrayed her. The same woman who had once said, "At least you got lucky with a man like Daniel." The walls around me felt like they were closing in. I ended the Zoom meeting early. I don't even remember what excuse I gave. Daniel was still in the living room, laughing over some video on his phone. I walked past him slowly, clutching his laptop like it was on fire. He looked up. "Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." He nodded and looked back at his screen. I went into our bedroom and shut the door gently, then I locked it. Sat on the bed, placed the laptop beside me, and just stared at the floor. Everything in my chest was screaming. But outside, I was silent. My husband had booked a hotel room. He had taken photos. He had smiled. And the woman in bed beside him was my own blood. 2 weeks ago, everything still felt normal, at least on the outside. Daniel and I had fallen into a quiet rhythm. He'd been coming home later than usual, always blaming traffic or some emergency with a client. I didn't question it. I trusted him. He was my husband. We didn't have the kind of marriage where phones were checked or passwords changed, or so I thought. We weren't trying for a baby anymore. We stopped that conversation a year ago after the 3rd miscarriage. It broke something in me, and in him too, or so I believed. We talked less after that, but I always thought that was grief, not distance, not disloyalty. Linda had been calling more often lately. Since her divorce, she'd been up and down emotionally. Some days she'd sound strong and independent. Other days she'd cry over the phone and say things like, "I just don't want to grow old alone." I tried to be there for her, always. She was my big sister. I owed her that much. I even offered to let her come stay with us for a few days. You need a change of scenery, I said on one of our evening calls. Just come, sleep, eat, no stress. She paused, then asked, Are you sure Daniel won't mind? Why would he? I laughed. He likes you. I remember bringing it up to Daniel that same evening while we were brushing our teeth. I told Linda to come stay a few days, just to relax. You're okay with that, right? He spit into the sink and wiped his mouth. Actually, maybe not this week. Things are crazy with work. I'll barely be home and it'll be weird for her. I nodded. Okay, maybe next week. Looking back now, I wonder, was that his way of buying time? A few days after that, I noticed he started going out with more cologne than usual. A new one, stronger, heavier, and not his usual scent. I joked about it. Trying to impress your clients? I asked, raising my brow. He smirked. It's just a sample I got from a guy at work. Wanted to test it out. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? Daniel was the type who always ironed his shirts neatly, wore polished shoes even to the grocery store. It wasn't unusual. At least, it didn't seem unusual then. That same week, Linda told me she might not be reachable over the weekend. I just need to get away from everything, she said over the phone. Clear my head. Are you traveling? No, just switching off. No phone, no talking, just me and sleep. I told her that sounded healthy. Now I wonder, was that when they went to Rosewood? The signs had been there, little ones. Things that seemed harmless then. A receipt I found in Daniel's jeans pocket one afternoon while doing laundry. A room service bill with no name printed on it. I thought it was something he picked up off the street and stuck in his pocket by accident. I threw it away. He had become more protective of his phone, too. Not suspiciously, just subtle changes. He always used to leave it on the coffee table. Now he carried it with him everywhere, even to the bathroom. I noticed, but I said nothing. People change, habits change. But in my heart, I felt something shifting. There was also the way he started texting late into the night, screen turned away from me. When I asked who it was, he would mumble something like, just the guys from work. And I would roll over and go to sleep, pretending I didn't feel the coldness growing between us. I remember one afternoon, Linda texted me, You ever wonder if you really know the people around you? I sent her a laughing emoji and replied, Deep question for a Wednesday afternoon. She didn't respond. And now, after seeing those photos, those words ring differently. Every phone call, every text, every moment of hesitation. It wasn't nothing. It was never nothing. But back then, I was still in the dark, walking through my life with my eyes open, yet seeing nothing. Linda wasn't just my sister. She was the one who taught me how to braid my hair, the one who stood up for me when I was bullied in primary school, the one who once gave me her favorite necklace and said, You wear it better. Growing up, she was bold and loud. I was quiet and careful. But we were close. Always had been. Even when she moved out and got married at 27, we never lost touch. She called often, visited when she could, and always had something dramatic to say about life, love, or men. When her marriage crumbled, I was the first person she called. She cried so hard I couldn't even understand her words. All I knew was that her husband had cheated with someone younger, someone Linda knew. The betrayal broke her. She moved out of her house with nothing but her suitcase and her dignity, and for months, she stayed with our mother. I went there every weekend just to sit beside her. Sometimes we didn't talk. Sometimes she cried while I brushed her hair or made her tea. I listened. I comforted. I reminded her that she was still enough. Don't let this make you bitter, I told her one night. Let it make you better. She nodded through her tears and whispered, I wish I had what you and Daniel have. You're lucky. That sentence stuck with me for weeks. I believed her. I believed my life was the kind of life people envied. Daniel was kind to her. At least that's how it looked. He helped her carry groceries when she visited. He once drove across town to help her fix her car battery. He even sent her flowers on her birthday one year. Signed, "From all of us." I thought that was sweet. In fact, I used to brag about how close they were. I used to say things like, "I love that my husband and my sister are like siblings too." I used to say that. There was one Sunday just a few months ago when Linda came to spend the afternoon with us. She brought fried rice and mango juice, Daniel's favorite. We all sat on the balcony, laughing, talking about childhood memories. She looked relaxed, even happy. At one point, she stood up and brushed something off Daniel's shoulder. He flinched, only for a second, then smiled. I didn't think anything of it. Now, I replay that moment in my mind over and over again. Was that the beginning? Or had it already started? Was I so blind that I couldn't see the closeness shifting? After she left that evening, Daniel said something strange. "Your sister's different now, softer." I asked what he meant. He shrugged. She's grown." That was the first time I saw something different in his tone when he talked about her. I didn't realize it then, but I do now. There were other things too. The way her eyes stayed on him a little too long. The way he laughed at her jokes more than mine. But I didn't want to be suspicious. I trusted both of them. Completely. I remember one evening when I was sick with a fever and Daniel was away for a conference. Linda called and offered to come stay the night. She didn't. She said something came up. I ended up managing alone. Now I wonder if Daniel had something to do with that. Was she with him? Did she lie while I lay there shivering under blankets? It's the kind of pain that makes your stomach twist. The kind that makes every memory feel poisoned. Linda, my sister, my friend, my closest person in the world. What kind of person do you have to be to do this? And more painfully, what kind of fool do you have to be not to see it coming? After I saw those photos, everything in my head became noise. But slowly, pieces started coming together. Things I had ignored, little moments I brushed off. Now they all made sense. I remembered a day, just last week, when Daniel came home late. I was already in bed. He crept in, kissed me on the forehead and said, "Long night. I'm exhausted." I turned to hug him, and that's when I smelled it. Not my perfume, not his cologne. Something else. Sweet, expensive, floral. At the time, I didn't say a word. Now I know that scent. Linda wore it every time she visited. Another time, I was doing laundry, sorting clothes like I always did. I emptied the pockets of his jeans and found a folded receipt. I almost threw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. It was from a hotel, but it didn't have a name on it, just room service, suite level, and a total amount that nearly made my eyes widen. I walked into the living room and asked him, "Did you eat at a hotel recently?" He looked up and shrugged. "Yeah, took a client out. She wanted something fancy." I covered it. I believed him. Of course I did. It never even crossed my mind to look deeper. Then there was the bank account. Daniel and I shared a joint account, not because we had to, but because we trusted each other. At least, I thought we did. After that email, I logged into the account out of instinct. My fingers shook as I typed the password. It loaded slowly. Too slowly. Like even the computer knew what I was about to see. Large withdrawals, big ones. Every weekend for the last 3 months. I scrolled down, same pattern. Fridays, always around the same time. He never mentioned anything about these. When I asked him before why he'd been moving cash, he said, "Investments. I'm helping a client flip a house. Don't worry, it'll come back with profit." I had smiled. I even said, "That's smart." Now I felt stupid. Still, something kept nagging me. Something I couldn't let go. Rosewood. Why that name sounded so familiar. Then it hit me. Linda's old wedding anniversary had been celebrated there. Their third one. I remembered it because she had posted dozens of photos on Facebook that year. They went all out. Gold room, jacuzzi tub, the same white bathrobes. My heart dropped. She knew that place. She had good memories there. Or maybe dangerous ones. I had to be sure. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I went to the hotel myself. I dressed up, pulled my hair back neatly, and told Daniel I was going to see a friend. He didn't ask which one. I arrived at Rosewood in the afternoon. The lobby smelled of fresh lilies and money. I walked up to the desk, pretending to be someone interested in booking a room. "Do you have any suites available this weekend?" I asked politely. The receptionist smiled warmly. "Yes, ma'am. In fact, we recently hosted Mr. and Mrs. Osayande. They stayed in the honeymoon suite. Would you like something similar?" I blinked. Mr. and Mrs. Osayande? That was my mother's name. Linda had kept that surname after her divorce, probably for professional reasons. I nodded slowly, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "Yes, that suite sounds perfect. Can I see pictures?" She showed me a few. I pretended to be impressed, made an excuse about checking with my husband, and walked out calmly. But inside I was crumbling. They used our family name. They didn't even bother to hide. Every single lie was now showing its face. And I was the last to know. I wasn't looking for a fight. I wasn't even sure what I wanted anymore. Answers, maybe. But the truth? It already hurt too much. After the visit to Rosewood, I came home to find Daniel in the kitchen, whistling while making tea. Like nothing was wrong. Like our life wasn't falling apart silently beneath us. I walked past him without saying a word. He called out, "Want some?" I shook my head and kept walking. That night, while he was in the shower, I noticed he had left his phone on the bed. He never did that anymore. It was always either in his pocket or face down on the table. But this time, it was unlocked, a message notification glowing on the screen. I didn't plan to look, but my hands moved faster than my thoughts. The message read, "Missed you today. Counting down to the weekend." It was from a contact saved as Evelyn, work. I knew instantly. This wasn't work. I opened the thread. My heart felt like it stopped beating. There were weeks' worth of messages, voice notes, photos, plans, jokes, flirty one-liners. It was them, Daniel and Linda. Only, she wasn't saved as Linda. He had hidden her under a different name, but the profile picture gave her away. It was small, but I could see it clearly. Linda with her new short hair, smiling in a mirror selfie. I sat down slowly. My entire body went cold. One message said, "Next time, let's try the rooftop one. I want to wake up to that view again." Another, "She has no idea, right?" His reply, "Not a clue. She thinks I'm working late. Guilt's killing me, though." And then, "We're not doing anything wrong. We just found comfort. That's not a sin." Comfort? That's what they called it? I took a screenshot, then another, then all of them, and I emailed them to myself. I wasn't ready to confront them, not yet, but I knew I had to start making a plan. I couldn't just sit there and pretend. I left the room, phone in hand, and walked out to the balcony. I needed air. I needed space to think. I needed my brain to stop spinning. 10 minutes later, Daniel came out, toweling his hair. "Everything okay?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, just thinking." "About what?" "Nothing important." He smiled and leaned in to kiss my forehead. I didn't move. I let him do it. I think that scared me the most, how easy it was to lie, to pretend, just like they had. The next morning, I called Linda from a different number. I didn't want her to know it was me. She picked up after 2 rings. Her voice was quiet, sleepy. "Hello?" I changed my tone. "Hi, sorry to bother you. Is this Linda Osayande?" She hesitated. "Yes?" "I'm calling from a bridal vendor list. We're updating our contacts and—" "I'm not interested, sorry," she said quickly and hung up. She didn't recognize my voice. Or maybe she did, and she panicked. That afternoon, I sent her a simple text from my own number. "Hey, been trying to reach you. Everything okay?" She didn't reply. Later that evening, Daniel walked in carrying 2 takeaway bags. "Surprise dinner," he said with a grin. "I thought we could eat out on the balcony." I forced a smile. "That's thoughtful." He laid out the food, poured drinks, and started talking about his day. I sat and nodded, watching him closely. He was pretending. I was pretending. 2 liars at one table. He toasted to us. I lifted my glass but didn't drink. Somewhere deep inside, I knew the time for silence was running out. After days of feeling like I was drowning in secrets, I needed comfort, and there was only one person left I could trust. I went to see my mother. I didn't tell Daniel I was going. I just packed a small bag and left early one morning while he was still asleep. My hands shook as I drove. Every red light felt like it was taking forever. By the time I reached my childhood home, I was almost gasping for air. Mama opened the door with a smile that dropped the second she saw my face. "What is it?" she asked, pulling me inside. "Who did this to you?" The tears came before I could answer. She held me tight. Her arms felt like a shield against the world. We sat on the old sofa in her sitting room, sunlight spilling through the curtains. I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. All I could manage was a whisper. "It's Daniel." Her eyes hardened instantly. "What did he do?" I told her everything. The emails, the photos, the messages. I showed her the screenshots on my phone. My mother took the phone with trembling hands. Her eyes scanned the images, her lips pressed into a thin line. When she finally looked up, her voice was cold. "I knew it." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean you knew?" She sighed deeply, placing the phone on the coffee table. "A few weeks ago, I went to the pharmacy by the market. I saw Daniel's car parked outside. I thought it was strange because he doesn't come to this side of town often." I leaned forward, desperate. "And?" She nodded slowly. "I was about to go greet him when I saw her. Linda." She came out of the shop holding his arm. They looked comfortable. Too comfortable. She was laughing at something he said. My chest burned like it was on fire. "Why didn't you tell me?" Mama's eyes filled with tears. "Because I wasn't sure. I told myself maybe they ran into each other. Maybe they were buying something for you. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to tear my daughters apart over a misunderstanding." I shook my head. "It wasn't a misunderstanding." She reached for my hands. "No, it wasn't." I buried my face in her lap and sobbed. She stroked my hair just like she used to when I was little and afraid of thunderstorms. After a while, she spoke softly. "Your sister has always struggled with envy, Nina. Even as a child. You were the quiet one who got attention without trying. She hated that. I tried to teach her love, but..." Her voice trailed off. I looked up. "Do you think she planned this?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I think loneliness can twist people, child. I think heartbreak made her desperate. But that doesn't excuse her. And it doesn't excuse him." Her words hurt, but they were the truth I needed to hear. We spent the afternoon talking. Mama cooked stew the way I loved, feeding me like I was still her baby. She told me stories about her own marriage, how forgiveness can heal some wounds, but others should never be ignored. Before I left, she took my face in her hands. "Listen to me. You are not weak, you are not helpless, and you don't have to pretend everything is fine." I nodded, feeling something shift inside me. As I drove back home that night, I kept replaying everything my mother said. I realized I had been living in fear of what I might lose if I confronted them. But what about what I had already lost? My peace, my trust, my sense of safety. When I parked outside our house, I saw Daniel's car already in the driveway. Lights glowed inside. The world looked the same, quiet, peaceful. But everything had changed. I took a deep breath. It was time to stop pretending. By the time I walked into our house that night, I already knew what I was going to do. I had thought about it the entire drive home, how they lied, how they played me, how they took my love for granted. I was done crying. I was done guessing. I didn't want revenge in the way people imagine it. Screaming, slapping, throwing clothes out the window. I wanted something they wouldn't see coming. I wanted truth. And I wanted both of them to face it. The next morning, I used Daniel's card, the one he used to pay for their little escapes, and booked a suite at the very same hotel. Rosewood. I picked the exact room I had seen in the photos. The honeymoon suite. I told Daniel I had planned a surprise weekend for him. Just us. I think we need it, I said, keeping my voice steady. He blinked, surprised, then smiled. You planned something? Wow. That's new. I nodded. I thought we could use some alone time. He agreed without asking a single question. Then I did the same thing with Linda. I used a different number, texting her as if I were the hotel manager, offering a complimentary spa day and dinner for one of our past guests. A lucky draw. Her name had been randomly selected. She fell for it, confirmed immediately. I arranged the times carefully, told Daniel to come at 5 p.m. and Linda at 5:30. Then I packed my things, not for the weekend, for good. That afternoon, I arrived early and set up a small hidden camera on the table, pointing at the bed. Nothing fancy, just enough to capture reactions. I wasn't planning to post it. This wasn't about the world. It was about me, about finally seeing the truth unfold without denial, without explanation. At 5 p.m. sharp, Daniel walked in. He looked around, impressed. You really booked the honeymoon suite? I smiled. I wanted it to feel special. He set his bag down and sat on the edge of the bed. This is really nice, Nina. I didn't know you had this in you. I didn't respond. I just poured him a glass of wine. 5 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. His eyes narrowed slightly. Are we expecting someone? No, I said calmly, and walked over. When I opened the door, Linda stood there in a white blouse and jeans, holding her purse. Her smile froze the moment she saw me. She looked past me and spotted Daniel. Her face turned pale. Daniel stood up slowly. What the hell? Come in, I said softly. Neither of them moved. I stepped aside. They walked in like two children caught stealing candy. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the air conditioner. Daniel opened his mouth. Nina. Don't. I raised a hand. I don't want excuses. I don't want fake tears. Linda tried to speak, but her voice cracked. I didn't mean... You didn't mean to sleep with my husband? I turned to her. You didn't mean to lie to me for months while crying on my shoulder about your failed marriage? She looked down. Daniel stepped forward. Let's go home and talk. There's nothing left to talk about. I took out a small envelope from my bag and handed it to him. Inside were copies of the hotel receipts, screenshots of the messages, and printed photos from the email. His hands shook as he opened it. Then I turned to Linda. You once said I was lucky to have a man like Daniel, but now I know I was never lucky. I was just blind. She tried to say something, but I stopped her with one final sentence. You are not my sister anymore. And with that, I picked up my bag, walked to the door, and left them standing in the room they once used to betray me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I had already seen enough.